All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of our legislative interview series. Today, I'm joined by Asa Fleming. Asa, thank you so much for joining me.
No, my pleasure.
So first off, we have something in common. We both moved to North Carolina from New York. You've seen North Carolina and specifically this area grow over the last 20 years. As we currently, struggle with housing inventory and affordability options, what are you most concerned about moving forward with this area now that you've seen so much growth in that last 2 decades that I outlined?
Well, yeah, so I went to NC State, so I was here back in the late 80s, early 90s. That's actually my parents moved here when I was in high school. And I went back to New York, and then I came back here in 2001. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting how it had grown from that part, then now being here for 20 years, things are more affordable. You have, I would say the quality of life has sort of changed a little bit. But, the things I'd like to see would be infrastructure. I love transit. This area, I was part of a transit referendum back in 2016 here, where we increased the bus routes from 17 miles to, I think, 83 miles, where we were covering a lot more area and giving people a lot more options. I'd love to see that more here. I think with how this community is laid out, if we can have options when it comes to moving people around from different, municipalities within our county and in the greater area, the Triangle area in general, this area becomes a lot more viable. You can move people around, and a lot more people will have access to housing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's so true. You've devoted your time to various committees. You're a past president of RRAR, for one. Where did your love of service and volunteerism come from? And the second part to that question, what would you say to encourage realtors who are debating whether or not to volunteer their time?
Well, I've always believed in, you have to get by giving. I have a mantra that you have to breathe out in order to breathe in. Mm. And the interesting thing there is that you have to breathe out first, right? Without expecting anything in return. I always say, when you're breathing out, at some point, unbeknownst to you, you have to breathe back in, right? And so I believe in giving back to the community, my clients, and my industry. Everybody that knows me knows that that's sort of what I stand for. And, I wanted to be able to say that I was a viable part of creating the quality of life that our community has, making sure that, people that felt like they didn't have a voice had a voice. And so, I use tech and timing, but that's something that I enjoy. I felt like, as someone told me, I had to be in the business of real estate and not just doing real estate.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to switch gears a little bit. From a legislative perspective, you've been in those rooms with elected officials. I've been there with you and have voiced your concerns to them. What do you see as a top priority for advocates to bring up to their elected officials to impact housing issues and realtor causes in a positive way?
Well, I've gotten really involved in the planning aspect. I serve on the Wake County Planning Board. I chaired it back in 2022. And, one of the most important things for this area now is housing, our inventory. We need more inventory. And one of the things I'm fighting for is, mixed income, because I think that we all know that mixed income housing, that's more, acceptable, and it does a lot better than if we had different neighborhoods with different incomes. It gives options, and I always believe in access to housing for all.
You mentioned housing for all, and it's a little bit of an extension of that. We've touched on this issue in this series before, but I keep coming back to the fact that the average household income in Raleigh is, let's say, $102,000 right now. The median household income is $73,000. So in the middle, you're looking at $73,000.
Sure.
That median sold home price in Raleigh as of June is $445,000. I'm a husband. I'm a father to a 1-year-old, as I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have that family dynamic. I luckily purchased my home back in 2019, but if I was buying now, I'd probably be renting a home or an apartment, and that's just the reality of it. Is it frustrating for you to see the growing family and the middle-class family, and even be below that, people struggling at the poverty level, trying to grow, trying to get up, trying to make a home for themselves, struggle to find that affordable housing in Raleigh?
It is absolutely frustrating. When I got here in 2001, when 2002, we were in a house, 130 something $1,000, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, a bonus, and a 2-car garage. That same house today is, approaching $400,000, no matter where you are in the city or in the area. And so it is frustrating. And I think that the number one thing we can do is try to figure out how we can build more affordable housing for people who are beneath the median income, and try to make it where they don't have to travel so far to get to work and all of the disadvantages that come with that. Now, land prices are so high, it's very difficult to do that now. I get it. But as elected officials and community, leaders, we need to try to figure out how we can do that. And, it's not one answer that fits the bill there. So it's going to take a lot of minds to come up with something that works.
Right, because there is that advantage of a longer commute, but you're getting that cheaper home price. But the disadvantages become people not living in the community that they work in. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And having to come from outside the community is difficult. There's wear and tear on your car, your body, family, your social life kind of suffers because you're spending a lot more time in the car. And then by the time you get home from your commute, you're tired. You don't feel like doing anything. And, of course, there are the environmental impacts as well.
Definitely.
So I'd love to see people be able to live, work, and play close to where, in the same area, and have the ability to afford, some sort of home or some sort of shelter, because obviously that's a physiological need that helps a human being live successfully. Mm-hmm.
Sure thing. The last question I have for you, looking to 2024, what do you hope to see from RRAR, from the Government Affairs Department, and what do you think are the main issues to focus on to achieve the recognition, success, and visibility within membership?
Well, I think RRAR, in my experience, have done a great job, and it continues to do a great job advocating for the homeowner. I think we're the only voice that does that, and we just need to continue to do that. Things like we've been speaking about, affordable housing. I love to see more emphasis placed on infrastructure, land use, zoning. Obviously, that's a big part of what I've been involved with. I'd love to see smart growth, where we are looking at where people are going. We're kind of putting all that stuff together and making sure we have transit. And I also like transit-oriented development. I think if we think from that point of view, we'll do a lot better in meeting the demands, especially when we're getting, upwards of 63 people a day moving to this area. We need to be out in front of these things instead of being, behind the ball.
All right. Thank you so much for answering those questions, Asa. I always really enjoy personally the times we get to chat. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Anytime.
All right. You have a great day.
You do the same. Thank
Thanks.
you.